Hi, welcome to Faith Uncovered. This is a podcasting series performed by a group of 8th grade students at Grand Haven Christian. We have pastors, missionaries, teachers, and so many others who have experienced God's hand in their lives. So take a seat and join us as we discuss and reveal God's work in our world.
Hi, I'm Kirsten VanOrman, and this is episode 6 of the Faith Uncovered podcast. Today I interviewed Ashley VanArkel, who is a local youth group leader. We'll be talking about her life as a devoted follower of God. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Okay, so I'm talking with Ashley VanArkel. So if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Ashley VanArkel, and I have been born and raised in Grand Haven, and I am currently a 3rd grade teacher, and I enjoy working with kids. I've also been involved in youth ministry at First Reformed Church, so it's just been a great opportunity to work with elementary school kids and youth group students as well.
Yeah. So you grew up in the church, right?
I did.
Yeah. So how do you feel like that affected your faith versus like coming to God from like not being a Christian?
Yeah. So I feel very blessed that I was raised in the church. And growing up, going to Sunday school, youth group, being involved in mission trips, I really feel blessed that my parents raised me in that way, and I was able to see faith in my grandparents as well. But it probably wasn't until I was middle school and even into high school where I really started to understand what it meant to make my faith my own. Because going to church was just something my family did, and being involved in youth group was just what I did, and I enjoyed it, and it definitely helped me grow in my faith. But as I definitely became a teenager and of course into college years, I really learned about what it meant to make the faith my own, and just how important that is, that it's not my parents' faith, but it's mine and my relationship with the Lord. And so that was really important as I got older.
Yeah, that's really cool. Somebody said one time that you can be raised in the church, but not in your faith. And so I think coming to God like as your own person is really, really important when you're becoming a Christian, obviously.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So you mentioned mission trips. What are some ways you've seen God work through the youth group and through who you're helping on your mission trips?
Yeah, so as a high school student, when I was in high school in youth group, I had a chance to go on a few different mission trips, and I always really enjoyed that. One, because it was a chance to serve others and really be the hands and feet of God, but it was a chance to work together and just really grow in faith together. On many of those mission trips, we had a service project we were working on, but we were also spending time in the Word. And so it's been neat not only for me to experience that as a high schooler, but now back as a youth leader for several years, I've been able to help lead some of those trips. And I've been experiencing the same thing, but as an adult leader, working alongside the youth group students. It's been just a really neat experience. But it just definitely gives you a new appreciation when you come back home. Oftentimes that's the challenge, because we go, we serve, we're on fire for the Lord, and then you come back to home and where everything is comfortable. And so sometimes that's often the challenge, is to continually dig into the word as we had been as a group, and continually to notice areas to serve, just like we had been on a mission trip. But they're always just such a powerful time of serving the Lord together.
Yeah. Could you pick like a favorite mission trip?
There are several favorites. Yeah. One, I can think of one when I was a high school student. We went to Mexico, and it was just neat to be able to go there and just see a whole different area. So I remember that one. That was just a neat experience. And we built a home. It was a very small home, but it was just so neat to see what we accomplished throughout that week. And then I also think of several that the youth group has taken to Pawleys Island, South Carolina, working with kids in after school groups, and just helping the kids in the area where we were staying. That was always been a really neat experience, working with kids wherever we went. Yeah,
I feel like you deal with kids very well. Me personally, I don't think I could ever be a teacher because I just don't have that patience for younger kids. So you teach at a public school, right?
I do, yep.
So are there ways that you can kind of like point out God working even though you go to a public school or you teach at a public school?
Yeah, so at a public school, of course, I'm not teaching, Bible lessons and things like that. But as a way, personally, I know that I can share my faith is just the way that I treat the kids, and just being loving and patient and kind toward them, and just helping them to problem solve and work through their friendships or conflicts in just a loving and kind way toward each other. So I hope the way that I treat them and the way that I love them each day and the way I show patience, I hope that they see Christ in me, though I might not be, I'm not teaching them Bible verses and things like that. I just hope the way that I care about them, and I hope that they can see the Lord through me.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say, like growing up, what was your family like being, a Christian family? Because I grew up in a Christian family, so I know how my family runs. Like we do devotions, we pray. How did your family kind of run?
Yeah. Like I had mentioned earlier, it was important that we went to church on Sundays. I grew up going to church on Wednesday nights, family nights. So those were normal for our family. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that we didn't really do like family devotions at dinner. We ate dinner together. We prayed before dinner. And looking back, I think about how important that was to me, that we sat down each night. We prayed at dinner time. And as I said earlier, that I was raised to go to church and youth group. So I think a lot of those, like going to church on Sundays and youth group on Wednesdays, those were a big part of growing up as my family.
Yeah. So First Reformed, right? We're focusing on seeing God in our daily lives. And a lot of the stories have been people kind of seeing God help them throughout their days or their lives. What is a time that you kind of were struggling or going through something and you felt God's presence through that?
Yeah. I can think of a lot of different times where I was either worried about something or I knew someone else was struggling with something. And I find myself really drawing closer to the Lord through prayer. So I find that I see the Lord working a lot through prayer. And so my parents recently went through different surgeries, and I know I definitely use that time to draw closer to the Lord through prayer, praying over them, praying for them and their recoveries. I recently lost both of my grandparents. They both passed away recently. And so just drawing closer to the Lord and seeing him work through those situations has been powerful. And just drawing closer to the Lord through prayer. And even just, I see the Lord working a lot of times in small ways, such as just in nature, in God's creation, and just seeing the way that he works through creation as well. But I often feel that that's something that I pray for. I often pray that God would open my eyes to see him more clearly and see the way that he's working in my life. Sometimes I struggle to see that. But I think it's because I'm not always focusing on that. So as I grow in my faith, I'm constantly asking the Lord to just open my eyes to see the ways he's working, whether it's big or small, because it doesn't always have to be big ways.
Yeah. So how long have you been a youth leader?
12 years.
What made you want to teach kids and work with high schoolers and middle schoolers on Wednesday nights?
Yeah, well, it kind of started where they just needed more people to volunteer. So I was willing to help out, and I said yes. And I thought it would just be a great way to get to know the youth group students, have fun, and just kind of walk alongside them in their faith journeys. So it kind of started out where I said, yeah, sure, I'll help. And 12 years later, here we are. But I've really enjoyed it. The reason that I continue to do it for 12 years. So it's just been great to work alongside other youth leaders and the youth group students, just growing in faith, being mentors to them, having fun, going on mission trips. So it's just been a really neat experience. Well, I think one of the big things, and I think, so many people talk about this in their faith journey, but I find this is true, young and old, kids, adults, that it's so true that we're just always growing in our faith. I find there are so many times that, there are times that I feel closer to the Lord. There are times that I feel a little more distant, but I know that he's always there. So I think one big thing for me is that I know that I'm always loved, and I know that he's always there. And that's just been a constant for me. So when, life is hard, when things, life just doesn't go as you planned, because it doesn't. One thing that I just really rest on is that the Lord always loves me. The Lord is always there. I can always come to the Lord in prayer. And so many times I've done that, and I feel such a peace through that. So in times of joy, in times of, struggle, when I feel far from the Lord, close to the Lord, I know he's always there.
Yeah, I remember when we met as a small group and youth group, you mentioned if you were to ever get a tattoo, it would be the word beloved. And I just kind of think about that. Like, we are beloved children of God. And
Yes.
we can't do anything that would separate us from him, because he loves us so much.
Yep. Exactly right. And that, you said it right there too. That's something that I always am so thankful for. And I just rest on that promise for sure.
Because, you can grow up in the church and everything, but it's a different story when you actually take Jesus to be your savior. Do you remember when you did that?
I do. Yeah. I was in middle school. I think it was 7th grade. And it was just a time in my life where I was ready to take that next step. And I remember talking about it with my parents and just kind of what that meant. And also talking with the pastor at church, and just having a discussion about that. And so, yes, I remember that time. And I remember really growing from that experience. And so it was a really special time for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me and talking about your faith and being a follower of Christ.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Faith Uncovered. Keep on listening for more amazing faith stories.